Hi everybody, welcome to The Well-Educated Artist. Today we are going to be doing a space, I'm not going to call it pour, it's really a bloom. We're going to do a nebula bloom. I've been playing with the space genre and this is something that I came up with. I did a small mock-up of it and I liked it, so I'm going with it today. And what we're starting with here is a 10-inch round, if you can see it against my black background, and it's just painted black. And you can use the black ones that you can get ready-made if you can find a round one that's black. But you can just paint it just like this with acrylic black paint. So it doesn't really need to be a pour paint. You can pour paint the background and let it dry. Whatever floats your boat. But here it is. So here we have a black round. These are my color art bloom paint that I'm going to be using. This one, so pretty, is Snapdragon. I use this one a lot. It's mixed with Bear 8300, which is a deep base, so it's an untinted paint that you can get from Home Depot, and Joe Sonia varnish. If you want a full mixing video, you can check that out. I do have one out, so just check on how I mix my paints video. Now, I've got several colors. I'm not sure you can see them all, and I'll try to go over them as I do it today. I won't go through the colors that I'm using because I'm not quite sure which ones are going to be the ones that I'm going to use. But with this bloom, I am not going to be using house paint. I am going to be using just plain old American Floetrol. This is in a bottle. Floetrol that you can get from your local hardware store or from Amazon. I will probably put a link, and you can get to that if you'll look underneath the video. Just click on the title and it'll give you the description of the video if you need some Floetrol. And Floetrol dries clear, so we're going for a very ethereal look on this one, and let's see what we can do here. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is lay down some of my Floetrol. I'm just going to open it up. Make sure you strain your Floetrol, it gets kind of nasty. So I'm just going to put some out on my round for right now. And I'm going to move it around, and I'm flicking it everywhere, which is fine. It does dry clear, so you don't have to worry about making a huge mess with it. I'm going to just take a palette knife, very dirty palette knife, and go ahead and spread it out a little bit. You don't want it super thick, I've learned. It takes it a while to dry. Floetrol in general makes paintings dry slower, so make sure that you spread that out a little bit if you're trying this, and make sure there's nothing in it. There's still gunk. It doesn't matter what I do, it seems I'm getting gunky Floetrol. Okay. Now that we've sort of got a base down and more gunk, goodness gracious. Keep some tweezers handy. Doesn't matter whether you strain it, you still have trouble. Okay, that's okay. I've got a little black coming through. But what we're going to do is start laying some colors down. And I'm not sure if you can see it, but I've kind of done a mock-up. And it has acrylic resin on it, so it's kind of hard to probably see. It's going to be quite a reflection. This one's just an itty-bitty. But it's a look we're going for as a nebula. So what I'm going to do is take some fun colors. I love my bright colors, but almost the subtlety works better, but I'm going to be doing a mix of them. I am going to use some of my interference colors. This one is a Pearl X Interference Gold. I have Playful Pink and Interference Pink from Arteza. I really like that one. It's actually from their Galaxy collection, so it makes sense to use it here. And also my fun things like Abalone Shell. I'm going to be using that. Indigo, also from Color Art, and I'm going to use my pink. This is Plumeria, also from Color Art. So some of them are Bling It, some of them are Primary Elements. I'm going to go ahead and add some of my colors down, and I'm going to probably go a little bit in a circular fashion. Make some circles. Ellipses, I should say. They're not circles, they are definitely ellipses, and I'm going to do it in a little more of an elliptical fashion. Doesn't have to be an ellipse. Make sure I have enough. This is kind of like mixing without a recipe. And then just some dots of color here or there. with my plumeria and my snapdragon. And then indigo from the Bling It line for color art. It's a little bit thick. And maybe just a little bit of Pearl X's Reflex Violet. I like me some violet. Okay, so I'm just going to start with those. I think I'm going to put some abalone shell. So here, and kind of see what happens. First thing I'm going to do is just spread it. I might actually use my smaller one for this before I make a mess. We're just going to spread the colors around. These are going to be hopefully cloud-like. Right now it just looks like a big hodgepodge, but it will change. Add a little bit more of the interference gold in the middle. And you notice I'm not using cell activator. I love it. You can kind of see, you may be able to see it with the camera, the playful pink and how it's just awesome. Such an iridescent light color. It's so nice for the applications when you want them to be very ethereal. Then the playful pink is definitely there to do that. So actually what I'm going to do is just carve a little bit in. I want some of the black. Now I can actually carve this while it's still wet out, but I am going to just carve in so I have a little bit of movement from the sides. Since I don't know exactly what I'm going to have, that's okay. Just removing some of my paint and my pigment. Don't want ridges. If you haven't seen these are kind of nifty tools. They are silicone point tools, and they work really good for cutting into things. I mean, obviously you can also take your finger and do this, but they work a little better than that. Okay. Kind of getting some cut-ins, and we'll kind of see what this looks like. The thing is, it is a waiting game. I kind of have to just wait for it. I am going to try to get out some of the bubbles. Now there's going to be different layers of this. What I'm going to take now, and you really need to put on a mask, and that would require me finding one. This is Let's Resin's metallic powder in copper, and I'm going to add a few flicks of it here and there because I really like the way it looks, and it will kind of just go in with this wet medium here, and you don't really need to do any mixing with it. I need to put on my mask. Since you do not want to inhale any of these powders. Okay. Yes, this is a really scientific way to do this. I love it because this powder goes everywhere, and honestly, you just have to flick it to get some good detail here. It's fun to flick that. Some people flick paint and some people flick the powder. Just make sure you've got a mask on or a respirator when you're doing that. Now, I won't know the next part of it. I am going to be adding some foil into this too. I'm going to be working on the middle, so there's more parts, but first we have to let this dry and see what we need to add to it. I guess I can take my mask off now. There's so many toxic things when you paint. You just need to protect yourself. But I'll let you hear me. So we're going to let this dry, and then we're going to come back and we're going to work on it some more. Okay. So I'm back, and you can see the beginning of a nebula. Got a lot of shine here. And we are going to do next steps. So the next step that we're going to do, I am going to start by putting something in the middle as a focus. They're kind of off to the side. And all I've got here is some white paint, some yellow paint, and some black paint, and lots of remnants of paints. And so I'm just going to start with giving me a glowing ball, maybe somewhere right around here. Not quite in this space. Kind of looks like a moon. I'm just going to start with that right there. And I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow in there for a little bit of glow, and I'm just going to kind of layer it in there. It's just a focal point. Okay, and we can go ahead and work. I am going to be using more of my Floetrol. So what I'm going to do is spread a little bit right around here. It doesn't have to be in a circle, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to put some out here and just kind of spread it around. I don't want it over the whole thing. I have learned through experience, if you do it over the whole thing, you tend to have some issues. So I'm just going to put some down. And then I'm going to take my palette knife and just move it out just a little bit. Because I need to have something down for my paint. Since my paint is bloom paint, I need to have some sort of foundation down. So I'm going to put some through here. I'll put a little bit more right around this because I'm going to want to add a glow around it. Switching off palette knives here to go right around that. Actually, you can't even go over it. It's not going to hurt a thing. Because I will end up adding to that anyway. Now that we've got a layer of Floetrol, notice that I've kept the edges black because I do want that black expanse. So what I'm going to do right around the center is add some of my Flip Flop paint. This is a Folk Arts Aqua Flash. I'm just going to put just a little bit. I want a hint of blue right around my center. And I'm also going to put a little bit of Arabian Sea. This one is by Color Art. Right there. Now I'm going to want some of my colors to move around, so I'm also going to be adding a little bit of Playful Pink from Arteza. I'm going to add just around a little bit. I want to have a cloudy effect, and because my Floetrol is clear, I'm going to get a cloudy effect from this. I'm also going to add a little bit of my gold. This is Interference Gold. This is Pearl X's Interference Gold. There are lots of Interference Golds out there, but I'm using the one from Pearl X. And then I'm also using May Springs White. So it's just a very pearly white color. These are all mixed, as I said before, with Jo Sonja varnish, the water-based varnish. And they're mixed with Behr 8300, which is a clear base made for paints, for your deep base. It's a deep base made for dark colors, I should say, but it doesn't have any color in it. So I'm just going to run some of this. Now I don't need too much white because I am going to use my whites out activator. I have to smell them because it's the only way I can tell the difference if I have not marked the containers. And I use them kind of interchangeably. This one is my formula of cell activator. This one over here then must be my my Australian Floetrol. And Amsterdam, this is Amsterdam paint with American Floetrol and a couple of additives. You can see my video on how to make my particular brand of cell activator. It adds things like mineral spirits in it, and of all things, my favorite diamond glaze adhesive is in this. So it's just kind of a little bit different mix. So I'm just going to take that on the back of my palette knife. I just dip mine right in. You can pour it. And I'm going to kind of get my cloudy effect by going around this and spreading it out. I want to have a cloudy look. Not too many clouds, but I do want some of the cell activator to stay. Oops. So I didn't put it all the way out, but I can move it. Need some more, I think. This is an exercise in subtlety. It really is, as you're putting this on. I'm going to just turn it around so that I can thin some of my layers out. If you get too much on there, there is a removal process. After it dries, it will actually peel off if you've got it too thick. So that is a blessing. I have been known to do that if it's gotten too thick. Sometimes it dries perfect and thin, and other times it doesn't. So occasionally you might have to peel it off. So now that we have gotten down some of our more subtle colors, our next layer, I'm going to go ahead and add some foil. These are going to add kind of a meteor feel to it, and I'm going to do it now while my Floetrol is wet, because that's just going to add as an adhesive. I have here two kinds of gold foil, and well, I should say one is gold and one is more of a copper color. So I'm going to use both of these, and I'm going to go ahead and add that somewhere with my tweezers, and I'm going to go ahead and add some different size pieces to this. These can be the debris or asteroids or whatever you want them to be. I just like the sparkle that it gives, and I'm going to add it in different places. So maybe the bigger ones closer in, and then some of the smaller ones maybe further out. And a couple more. Okay. So now we're just going to let this layer dry. Now you can do a layer of stars now if you want to. I just take a little bit of paint and even a little bit of my pour paint. I usually do several layers of stars. You can just take a hard brush, a toothbrush, a fan brush. I do use fan brushes quite often. Going to go ahead and put that. Some people flick it. I am going to flick my brush this way. I'm just going to put a very little splattering around the outside because I'm going to be adding more. And then we'll let this dry. So you can see how this dried, and we've got that cloud-like effect, the iridescence, and we need to do some finishing details for this, and then we're going to resin this. So let's start with some finishing details. We've already added a little bit of gold foil in here, very small pieces, but what I want to use here next, and I have paint everywhere, which is my constant state these days, is color shift paint here from Folk Art, and this particular one is called Orchid Flash. So you normally see me use my Aqua Flash. Well, this is the Orchid Flash, and you could also use Aqua Flash with this one. Okay, I've just put a little bit of paint out, and I'm going to use a dotting tool here. And I'm going to start dotting. I think I want a little bit larger dot. And I've got so much shine, I am going to lift this. Kind of spiral them out from the center. until I have all of the dots that I want. Okay, so I'm going to pull out some aqua flash. I'm just going to use the cap for this pretty iridescent there, and I'm just going to add a few dots here and there. Let's add some more stars. My stars are dry, I'm going to spray this concoction on it, which is water, abalone shell, which is from the Bling It line of color art, and some turquoise. You can kind of see how it shines aside from all the paint that's on it. And I'm just going to give this a spritz. It's going to give it a little bit of iridescence, and then I'm just going to dab some of it off. As long as everything is dry, we're good to go. It's also going to add just a little bit of cloud. I'm just going to make sure it's off of my negative space more than anything. So I think I'm done for now. We've got lots of sparkle. We've got 3-dimension, and it'll really become 3-dimensional once we put on a coat of resin. This one has a coat of resin on it. This is just my little mock-up of it, and I will let you see what happens.